Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another. Welcome back? Wait a second. It's been a whole month since I put up a whole episode. Jeez. Well, for now, let's call this a bonus episode and not really consider it an episode of Discography Discussion, mostly because I'm not talking about anyone specific. At least someone that I haven't already talked about before. Now, for those of you who are interested into what happened about the show, go ahead and stick around. For those of you who are interested in the Now Now review, which is the review of the new Gorillaz album that just released today, which is June 29th, but for you guys it'll be June 30th, so yesterday. If you haven't already heard it, I'll put a little what is that? A time skip, a little time stamp in the description for you to skip to the part of the review that is the Now Now. But for right now, what happened? Well, if you don't know or just didn't pay attention, I took a whole month off of discography discussion to figure out a couple things with just personal life, but also some things that had to do with the recording process and as well as just YouTube in general. Now, at first, I was trying to find out why monetization just wasn't not necessarily working, because I don't have monetization yet, but more so the process to getting to it. I don't know why it wasn't working, so I had to get that figured out, which took up the first week, which is why I didn't release an episode the first part of the month. And then it still wasn't figured out it wasn't fixed for another 2 weeks, pretty much. For whatever reason, YouTube decided not to answer so quickly, and so, it took a little bit of figuring out, but here we are now. Which ended up also eating the second episode, which wasn't a good thing either. So, yeah. But, for the most part, I will get monetization soon, which means some ads will be shown if you happen to want to be looking at probably somewhere in the near future, but don't expect it too soon. As far as just not putting up episodes, I had to figure out some things with the recording process, which was most of the stuff is recorded through my phone, and now I have a laptop to go ahead and do that stuff now, and I was just trying to figure out a lot of the editing process, the recording with the audio process. If you haven't noticed, the past couple episodes have actually been edited on this computer now, or on this laptop. I'm still recording on the phone, but the phone is starting to have a lot of problems, so I'm just slowly making that transition over to the laptop, and basically getting a little better with the editing and such. So that also took a little bit of learning, which that was mostly just me doing in the meanwhile while waiting for a response from the YouTube, whatever they're called, team, company, whatever, the people who are handling the situation. But yeah. That's pretty much it. And like I said, some other personal stuff that had happened, but that doesn't really matter. I don't really feel like sharing all that just because I feel like it doesn't matter. But now we're going to transition over into the review of the new Gorillaz album, The Now Now. And yes, it is a studio album, surprisingly. Not an EP, not an LP, but a brand new album. And I know technically this counts as I finally got around to, but I figured I'd lump it in here as something interesting and whatever. But anyway, let's move on. So, the Now Now. June 29th, 2018. Total of 11 tracks. Surprisingly suspicious. This album sounded very familiar to me, and I wondered, why? Why is this album familiar to me? Well, let's look at all the aspects. It came out a year after the initial main studio album from the Gorillaz. Doesn't change the phase, meaning it's still phase 4, as far as the story context. Only 11 tracks. Okay. Pretty short album, not too long. Oh, it's like The Fall. If you don't know from my Gorillaz review, I'm not too big a fan of The Fall as a studio album because it barely feels like an album, and also it's barely an album. Having been produced entirely on an iPad, and it came out a year after Plastic Beach, it wasn't a great album. A lot of the songs were just dumb and kind of based on real places that they were touring to. And this album sort of has that, where some of the songs are based on places they are touring to for the Humans tour. But this album is actually way better because it wasn't I'm just going to make it on my iPad. It was, I'm actually going to go ahead and produce this and have a bunch of people produce it with me. And there's actually going to be some effort, more so than just on an iPad. I know I just keep saying that over and over again, but whatever. Anyway, regardless, there was some serious effort put onto this album that actually made a lot of sense, and I actually quite like it. Now, I don't like every song on here. There are some songs that are just kind of misses for me, particularly ones that are just more instrumental based and not so much vocal based, especially because this album was sort of advertised as, for those of you who are really big fans of 2D, it's mostly 2D singing. Which still doesn't make much sense to me because every album is 2D singing, even if it's full of features. That's the one thing I'll say about this album. It's definitely a really big break from all the massive amount of features that were on Humans. Here there's only Snoop Dogg and I can't remember who else, but that's about it, and they're only on one song. Out of the 11 songs, I only liked 6, and I'm going to name them now. Humility, Trans, Hollywood, Kansas, Fireflies, and Soak I don't know how to say that one. Souki, like eyeball. And Jack Black was on one of the on Humility as well. But regardless, there aren't as much features and sort of crazy instrumentals and such, and it's not very loud and exciting and all that. It's a little more calmed down. A lot of weird criticisms that have come out so far from people who got either early access or who are listening to it now are, it's for fans who miss 2D, which wasn't a problem I had with the last album nor the last couple of albums, especially not Humans. Humans had a lot of albums that were focused entirely on 2D as a character, and to say that the other band members aren't a part of the album is kind of weird because, I mean, all the instrumentals are there. That would make sense for Noodle and Russell to make. And while Murdoch is technically in jail for whatever reason, we have someone to fill his spot, Ace, and nothing ever feels really empty. Like I said, the only real difference from this album is that it's mostly just, we wanted to focus on Gorillaz. We wanted to make new material to debut at our tours, and as well as something for fans to keep them going. And I understand from that aspect, that makes sense. I'm okay with that. Especially because, like I said, it puts in a lot more effort than The Fall did, and it sounds a lot better than it did too. This is actually studio recorded, so the mixing is all very proper and it all sounds very nice, whereas The Fall sort of feels a little too independent. Even worse than their original album, I would say. But this one I definitely do like, and I do recommend it for those of you who are fans of the Gorillaz in any way. And for those of you who are maybe trying to get in the Gorillaz, this isn't that bad of a place to start. Although, personally, I'd say start from the beginning, but that's just my own thing. If you're just trying to get into them, this is definitely a good place to start. No really big, harsh criticisms. Nothing really bad about the album. Just a couple of songs that I didn't really care for. But, yeah, that's about it. It keeps sort of in style with Humans, but it's sort of its own thing as well. Yeah. I actually do really like a lot of the art that's coming out for it, and a lot of people are liking it too. I love that they're doing a little more animated stuff with their music videos and such, whether it be the visualizations that they put out for some songs, like Hollywood and Fireflies, or whether it just be a straight-up animation done with, mixed in with actual events, which is like Humility's music video, which is really great. But overall, a really good album. Definitely something to listen to if you're a fan of the Gorillaz. If you're not a fan of the Gorillaz and want to get into it, definitely something to start off at. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing really else to say about this album, other than I really liked it. Could have been better, of course, as everything can be, but not bad. Anyway, so that's all I got for you. Discography discussion will continue through the month of July and the coming months afterwards, unless something happens. Like I've always said before, you can follow my Twitter down in the description below for any updates and new episode releases and such for Discography discussion, or I finally got around to, which I finally have to get around to making a new episode for. But hey, I never promised to make that a subsequent show or a very consistent show. Just spur of the thing. But yeah, my Twitter will be for a lot of the updates and stuff. To give you a preview into who the new who the next episode of Discography Discussion will be. I'm gonna say Los Angeles Zombies. Yeah, that should be a good enough of a hint. But anyway, give a like if you like the video, dislike if you didn't like the video, comment down below whatever you want, or other artist groups or bands you would like me to listen to for Discography Discussion. I'd definitely like to hear some suggestions of what you would like me to hear. But Deeba, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching, and I'll